So of course we'll present these results in a nice squared up dashboard using our lovely CSV tile. Thanks to Samir in the background for sort of putting all this together. I think we'll start we'll just sort of work through it from the top down. In my previous sort of more commercial role at Squared Up, NPS was a huge part of my job. I loved it. So for any of you who don't know what an NPS score is, Net Promoter Score is basically just you're asked that question of, how likely are you to refer SCOM to a friend or colleague? And I can't imagine we all spend all day talking to our friends about SCOM, although maybe this community is sort of evidence of that being different. But the NPS score is basically you take the number of detractors away from the number of promoters, and show that as a percentage of the whole response pool. So it can be from -100 to +100, and anything above 0 is basically good. Think of any big brand, any bill that you pay monthly, they'll all have a negative NPS score. But for SCOM, surprisingly, we're all loving it. I mean, we're maybe not loving it as much as we did in 2021 and 2022. We didn't have the data available for 2023, sadly. But it seems like we've stuck pretty close for the last couple of years. And I mean, to put that score into perspective, that's kind of the score that you'd expect a company like Apple to have, which obviously is a brand we all absolutely love. So to know that SCOM has the similar NPS score to somebody like Apple, I think is pretty cool. Do you feel like your desire to promote SCOM has dipped slightly, Sean, in the last few years?
For me, no. Because I work with it every day. I learned something new that's just amazing about SCOM, how it's put together, how it works. And every day I figure out new ways to exploit it. And it's kind of like that V8 moment. Why didn't I know this like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And when I look at, I know we don't have the 2023 data, but when I see the kind of the dip there, I just wonder if Microsoft didn't do a good job of just promoting it more. And that's kind of why we're dipping. But SCOM, I think, still has so much to offer. And the fact that Microsoft hasn't been able to just pull it from the market tells you that it's a beast. It'll be there. It has some staying power, and that's the nice thing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the fact that we can still run an event like SCOMathon, we can still get people to contribute, to turn up and learn, shows that people are, SCOM is still a tool for them. I think the next few numbers sort of help speak to that a little bit. So the question was sort of how do you expect your use of SCOM to change over the next few years? Will it grow? Will it stay the same? Will it reduce? And there's a surprisingly good chunk of people who year on year say they expect their use of SCOM to grow. 33% of people. The number of people who said their use of SCOM is going to reduce has actually dipped by 6% over last year. So in theory, more people are either sticking with it, or maybe something's changed in the last year. They realize that they're going to continue to invest. And the number of people who think that their involvement's going to stay the same has grown by that percentage that's come away from reduce. So yeah, I think really, really great to be able to sort of see that, SCOM is sticking around. People plan to keep it sort of sticking around. And that there is still a good chunk of people who think that, they can grow their use of SCOM in the next period of time.
I'm looking at the reduce, though. I also wonder, like in the industry as a whole, all these new tools pop up and then disappear. But SCOM's been around. It's mature. And I think once people get it in, realize how stable it really is, I think that attributes to its strength.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, you could probably argue a case, the negative case being like people are so heavily invested in it that when it really comes to the crunch, they just don't want to put the effort in to unpick SCOM in favor of some other like sexy, overly marketed APM tool or something like that.
Yes.
There's that part of that's the kind of the worrying, the doubt in the background. Yeah. But I think for most people, it is just it's awesome, right? It's highly extensible. It continues to do everything people need, yes. And the hybrid world is. The hybrid world is maybe, I think a few years ago you'd have thought like hybrid was maybe a stepping stone to everything going to the cloud, and people have realized just how expensive that is.
It's like that. It's like during COVID, we all came home or worked from home. You could kind of say we were all going to go to the cloud, but the reality is, back to the office, and then we do hybrid home work. I think the true is for computing. We're going to have data centers. They're going to be in the cloud. We're going to have local data centers. They're going to be on site. And I think we're going to move workloads back and forth. And SCOM's positioned to handle both of that fairly well. I mean, it doesn't do everything, but it does so much pretty well.
Yeah, and if you've already got it there, and your plans to just blow away all your data centers has suddenly disappeared, like yeah, SCOM's going to stick around.
Yeah.
I think this is the next question: how long do you expect to continue using SCOM? This is kind of interesting. The data scientist in me wanted to find some correlation of like 5 years ago, the number of people who said they wouldn't be using SCOM now, they should all be gone from this, right? They aren't even filling out the survey anymore. Mm-hmm. You've got this line sort of decreasing. The numbers should, in theory, all be sort of shifting up sequentially. And it seems pretty clear that the number of people who think SCOM's got at least 5+ years, that has dipped, right? That has gone down. Not so much, not hugely by last year's standard, only 1% less than last year, but certainly in comparison to the sort of nearly 60% of people who in 2022 were saying they're going to be keeping SCOM for at least 5 years. That it is dwindling down a little bit, but it's maybe quite as terrifying from this as you might expect.
Oh, I also wonder if that's just the C-levels managers, when they look to making their 5-year plans, and they're like, okay, Microsoft, you're going to do another version of SCOM, and then you don't hear, and then suddenly, boom, there it is. Great, we're going, and they give you 5 years of support, and then 10 years of support. We know it's going to last, and so we're always saying, okay, in 5 years, I'm going to get rid of it because we're 3 years away from the next version. If Microsoft would come out and say, I think we're going to have 3 more versions and you would be supported for the next 20 years, I think we wouldn't see this.
Yeah.
It'd be a totally different answer.
Yeah. A good element of like the lack of commitment from Microsoft, who, aren't here today, as well as the, the fact that like 5-year plans are still just like tricky. And I think certainly you mentioned COVID. I think a lot of companies are, sticking away from making such long-term plans now. Maybe people just don't know what the answer is at the moment.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the question about SCOM MI. Are you interested in it? Huge chunk of people, more than half, saying no. Actually, maybe this isn't a percent, seeing as it's up to 107. This must just be out of the number of
responses. Yeah.
Let's go for the numbers at the side then. So the people who aren't interested seems to have gone up a good chunk over last year. It's 16% higher than it was last year. The people who were interested in it last year, that's dipped massively, and the people who don't know what it is, that's also gone down a bit as well. So all of those people saying they're not actually interested in SCOM MI. That number has ticked up quite a good bit since last year. Do you think there's any telling signs in that?
I do. I really do. I think SCOM MI is okay. Company, I'll go all cloud, and we have big pot of money. We're gonna do it, and so they go in and they're fine, and they stay. But then another company is like, okay, we don't want to invest in the infrastructure needed to run SCOM on-prem. Let's go to SCOM MI. That's great. Oh, it costs how much? And then they pull back.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're really seeing is a stabilization here. Those that need it have the money, they go. Those that want to try it, they go, and then they come back. I think we're always going to see kind of like a split like this. I think it's that hybrid world. Some going to want it, some not going to want it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is quite. It's probably quite an interesting stat for Microsoft to be taking aware of, that it is so polarizing, right? It's not just like a tail off. Like the number of people who aren't interested is increasing. So maybe we'll see something from that at some point. Let's move down into sort of how people are using SCOM. So SCOM versions in production. So this year, the number for SCOM 2019 is surprisingly huge. Bob's clearly rubbing off on people. He's got a good bunch of people moving across to the later versions. SCOM 2022 has got a good number of people. A good number of sort of older versions in there, as well as 2012 showing up here.
Yeah, I'm still surprised by 1801, 1807, and the 2012s. 2019 didn't surprise me because that was like a banner year.
Yeah.
Everybody, we were all happy about SCOM. That was the future so bright, gotta wear shades kind of thing. So it's actually nice to see 2022 pop up because it's starting to make some headway in there. But 2019, that to me, I think everybody on 2012, 1801, 87, and 2016 should be on 2019 at the very least.
Yeah.
But I'll bet you those are probably big enterprises. They probably have workloads that can't be monitored with 2019.
Yeah, the legacy problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. I think that's probably going to be it. How many agents do you monitor? A nice, interesting question for sort of scale. So the biggest one there is 1,000 to 3,000, which is obviously, I think, probably reasonably sort of average for your typical sort of big enterprise. Good distribution across all the other categories for the rest.
The customers I work with, even today, they're always anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500. So this is really representative of an average SCOM workload. I think it'd have been number of management groups. Okay, number of management servers. Because I like the idea of agents and then the management servers because that's always interesting too. Because we'll get to that. I'll share that in a moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, dig into it. I mean, yeah, I think.
Well, okay, because right below it is the number of management servers, and so when I think about number of agents, because I had in my old shop, I had just shy of like 2,500 Windows machines and about 2,000 Linux machines, and I had 12 management servers. I spread out all my load, but I was like a SCOM admin. I loved all the moving parts. I moved all the workloads for Windows onto these management servers and the Linux workloads, and then I had the management pack, and then I had messaging over here, and I was like uber crazy. So then I see this, and I'm like, all right, so 1 to 5 management servers. I'll bet you probably a lot of people are undersized, but I would love to know the correlation of who goes with what.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the data, so yeah, we should definitely be able to add a bit more to this dashboard, and we can share it.
But I will say, I had a lot of management servers, but when I see some like 11 people over 20 management servers, holy moly! I mean, they must be like one management server to agent. I mean, this is kind of like a little too much, I think.
I don't know. Maybe they're just super keen SCOM admins like you, Sean.
Well, but I was isolating the workloads, so I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. But I was glad we asked the question at the very least, because that to me was, all right. I still feel probably most people should be in like 5 management servers. I think is probably the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So we should have seen 6 to 10, a little bit higher. But
just sort of going up a level. How did that work for you in terms of management groups? What do these at the bottom sort of tie into? I would have expected 1 to 2 management groups. We ran a test management group and a prod management group for a little while. We ended up not doing that because all the agents were dual homed and they were running double workloads and they were just consuming too much on the box. So when I see like 4 to 10 management groups, oh boy. I mean, yeah. That's kind of crazy to manage so many different management groups. So I bet you in those cases they're isolated. They probably have some crazy security. Never shall the two meet and kind of thing. So yeah. A fleet of ships, and each ship has its own management group.
Yeah, and each ship requires a crew and care and feeding, and that's a lot. That's a lot. So there's probably, we should have asked as a companion question, how many admins support SCOM?
Yeah.
And I bet you, 1 to 2 management groups would be like one person. Over 10, they probably have a team.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure we've spoken to a company. I don't think I could name names if I tried, but who ran ships, and they did have a management group per ship because they were all isolated. They did occasionally have the ability to all sync back, but yeah, they were looking at squared up for a management group per ship. Seems fun.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be something else.
Yeah, I'd imagine if anybody from NICE answered this question, they could easily be in there. And I'm sure they've got hundreds of management groups for all their demo labs that they have available. I mean, we've got, I don't know, what, 4 or 5 probably between all of our demo labs, that kind of stuff. Obviously, these aren't production management groups as such, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting that there are anybody responded with these sort of kind of high numbers, these really high numbers. But yeah, for the most part, it's kind of where you'd expect 1 or 2 management groups. 1 to 5 management servers is probably the most common, and yeah, pretty typical, sort of up to a couple of thousand agents.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I know that like the requirements for SCOM haven't really gone up; they've kind of gone down. Just kind of thing. I was thinking about the Excel spreadsheet that Microsoft publishes for the sizing, like how big should you make it. I haven't really looked at that in a while. That would be interesting to go see what they're recommending now,
yeah,
less or more.
yeah, absolutely.
Bob's listening, so the sizing sheet did not change. Okay, thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, great. Well, I think we could probably leave it there for sort of takeaways from the survey. It probably is just worth saying as well, like this is all like pretty interesting data, and I like the idea of doing the sort of correlation between where all those numbers actually tie into each other. So we'll get Samir back to work on that later, and we can probably share a link to this shared dashboard through the SCOMathon website. If anybody wants to check it out down the line, help it to make a case for more executive buy-in for SCOM. Hopefully, we'd want to see this trend change, or at least stick with where it is. So if we're around for SCOMathon 2026, around for another year, then hopefully we'll still see a nice positive sort of feedback on SCOM coming from all of you. But do take the survey. I mean, this information is all super interesting stuff, and it's definitely beneficial to all of us to know that we're not alone in this, or we are alone in this, or whatever it is that you can take away from that.